Done. There are total 8 questions. You can write down A, B, C, D, or whatever the answer is. Anything, anywhere. Just A, B, C, D, or what it is. So, done. Second question, third question. Easy, dead easy questions, right? 2 second questions. Second question, third question. Done. Moving on to the fourth question. Yes, Narayan. Yes, done. Fourth question. I hope you have answered the fourth question. Just a second. Fifth question. Total 8 questions. So 30 seconds per question max. Moving on. Okay, seventh question. Done. Both questions are visible, right? Seventh and eighth. In one shot. Seventh question, I hope you are completed. Eighth question, this is the question. Yes. Okay. Done. Fourth and fifth questions. Fourth question. With reference to basic structure doctrine, consider the following statements. Fifth question also more or less very similar to the same one, right? Yes, how many of you got all the 8 questions, at least attempted all the 8? Yes. Done? Fourth and fifth? This is the first question. Okay, fine. Now, also think of why those questions are asked. You know what is the answer, right? So why did I pick up that particular question? What was the trigger? Was it in the news recently? Why? Okay, done. All 8. How many of you attempted 8? 7. 7 and 8. Last time. Yes, Srinivas attempted all 8. Alright. Why? How many you attempted? You? Which 2 you don't know? You don't know. You don't know. Yes. 7. Which one you don't know? Second one. Second one you don't know. Kumar?
6.
Why? Baki do? 7 and 8.
First.
First and
8.
8th question. Okay. Which one you don't know? 7th question you don't know. You don't know. I think all questions are done. Yes. That's fine. Now, what is the answer to the 7th question? Why was it asked? BRICS economy, Brazil, yeah, BRICS, Brazil. So that is why I put it as the first option.
RK which
Article on road accidents. So Brasilia declaration is about road safety agreements. So the very first line of that particular article says that India is having a target to reduce or half the road accidents by 2025. 2025 or 2030, we are having a target to reduce the road accidents. So that is also the core principle of Brasilia declaration, right? So the very first thing is road safety article. What is the prelims question? That means when you see something, you need to have that perspective of what kind of questions will come. That is the beauty of newspaper, or else you are just reading it for the sake of reading it, right? Next, we'll start with the first one. आपके सामने जो पेपर है, the same question.
second article, but climate shocks.
Climate. Not today only. Like in the last 1 week, I directly picked it up because of previous question. First of all, climate smart agriculture has been asked by UPSC just last year in 2021 prelims. Okay, and it's a direct copy paste of the same PYQ. And there are 3 PYQs in this paper. Which ones?
The Supreme Court ones. Also the one.
Article 142.
Butterfly is my question. PYQ. See,
Article 142, sir.
1 to 1 6th
the
question.
Supreme Court article.
Okay, so if you don't know 1 to 1 6, then that means what? You did not revise
PYQs.
PYQs. Yes? I hope you understand. Simple logic, right?
Not in this
You are
paper.
going to an exam in 2022. You need to know what was asked in 2021. Have you even mastered the topics? See, I never say you have to recognize the answer. It's not the concept. Do you know a good detail about climate smart agriculture? What is the definition of climate smart agriculture? Why is it in the news? Is India doing something about climate smart agriculture? Is there something in the budget related to climate smart agriculture? Like this, all these things are very important, right? The topic based preparation is narrowing the focus. If you don't narrow the focus, what will happen? The entire ocean is yours to swim. But if you have to win the swimming pool, you have to master that particular thing. Okay, so the answer is D, by the way. All three are
Yes,
correct. Next one, why? Why is more important? This is also a previous year question. This is a 2010 UPSC direct question. Why? Why did I ask that question? Any guesses?
Maybe FSSA is running a food safety campus campaign.
So there's an article in editorial regarding the clauses of WTO.
Very good. FCI head has written that article, right? Sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Free trade agreement between India and UAE. There was an article in Hindu. In that, he talks about tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers, technical barriers to trade. So in that, he mentions the term sanitary and phytosanitary measures, which will act as non-tariff barriers. What is the importance of non-tariff barriers? See, barriers are money-based or tax-based. What are non-tariff barriers?
Quantity based.
Quantity based. We have discussed this briefly, right? So in the same length, he talks about sanitary and phytosanitary. That means hygiene related standards. So this is the particular thing. Adding more value to the same thing. This is not, found by WTO. This is actually WHO Health Organization and Food and Agriculture Organization. These two institutions frame this code, and it is used by WTO. As I said, anything and everything related to WTO is important for UPSC. Who told me that?
Previous year question.
Previous year questions. So I told you to do the last 15 years questions. So if you do the last 15 years questions, you will know what kind of questions can come on WTO. So when you don't read newspaper, when you read something else, so you're missing the woods for the trees. Okay. Next, this one is dead easy, but this has been discussed multiple times. Yes, fourth question, anyone got wrong? Got it wrong? No, you should not, you are not supposed to get it wrong. It's a very simple, straightforward question. What is basic structure doctrine? Yes, the confusion might come in these numbers. Okay, but majority of them are very famous numbers. Let's say 147, ignore. Okay, but 142,
Yes, sir.
136, special leave
Special
vacation. 32.
It's
Great. So you know all these things. The other day also I asked you basic structure doctrine. What are the cases? What are the things under basic structure doctrine? Yes, harmony and balance. This is also a part that is covered under basic structure doctrine. So mastering the basics is important. This one. What is the answer?
C.
The answer is B. The question is okay. Yes, I know you people. Huh? So you must make a basic silly mistake that is bound to happen. So only one is correct. This and this is wrong. Obviously, this is a simple trap. 100. You see 100. Obviously, 100 is wrong. 1000. Okay. 2 is eliminated. So 1 and 3. Basic approach, but here also this is something that you don't see. You don't see the number 10% in anywhere, whether in national parties or state parties. See, the moment you see the percentage 10%, something should kick from inside. Hunch. I never read. See, I read 2%, 5%, 6%, something like this. But 10 is something that is odd number. We don't hear in polity very occasionally, except for the cabinet ceiling. 10 is not heard everywhere. Right, so the moment you see that hunch should be there. And on a serious note, if you actually didn't answer this question, you should slap yourself in private. Yes, why?
the previous year question.
And in hundreds of times we have mentioned what is Article 142. Now Pratyusha will tell us some cases. You did not research about it. You are supposed to do a basic reading. There is a difference between basic reading and research and development, right? Basic reading means what? Googling, Wikipedia, what is Article 142? They will tell you some article names, right? Yes. As recently as possible, Supreme Court has used Article 142 to give divorce to a couple. Okay. So recently Supreme Court even introduced Article 142 in giving divorce to a couple. So you can understand the diversity of Article 142. Okay. So the more you learn, the better. Again, missing woods for the trees. This is something that you are supposed to know. Brasilia Declaration. This is directly related to road safety. Clear? And in these kind of questions, see, you may not know everything. You're not supposed to humanly remember everything. So the answer is A, one only. Okay. Why? Here it's 0.5%. It is supposed to be 0.5%. So why will I know the trivial data? Just use logic. Insurance companies now has to spend total premium collected on information communication activities. See, corporate social responsibility itself is 2%. Okay, so why will any company spend 5% of its entire collections on some activity? So that is a huge amount of number, right? So in Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, we see premiums themselves as to 1.5%. So such things are heard, but this you don't hear. So that should at least strike a thought process. Why will some companies spend 5%? So if you think in those lines, you might get it, you may not get it. It's not a crime. If you know, it's okay. If you don't know, it's okay. Yes. Right. So again, the same thing. Without this, you are lost. As J.R.R. Tolkien says, all who wander are not lost. Okay, that is applicable in real life. In UPSC, you are actually lost if you keep wandering. Okay. Simple logic. Yes. How many correct?
4.
5. Within that, how many are 100? How many are 50-50? How many are hunch? How many are blind guess?
400%, sir.
All correct.
All correct.
So your accuracy in 100% is good. 50-50?
50-50. Nothing, sir.
Nothing.
Because,
Either you know or you don't know. What is hunch?
that Pradhan Mantri was
Gone.
No, sir.
It got correct.
It's gone actually.
So your accuracy is bad in hunch based questions. Last one, blind guess.
Blind guess, I think. Sir, 146th question.
142.
No, that's silly mistake, sir. This one is silly.
Not correct.
That's it.
Brasilia Declaration. You knew.
Brasilia Declaration.
No. Right. Only 3 correct.
4.
3. 4. 6 correct. Nice. 4 correct. So average is less than 5. It's not 10. It's not 50%, but it's less than 4, right? 50-50 also. So half of them are previous questions. Half of them directly I have showed in the class. The Crimson Rose question. 142 direct questions. You don't even need to think about it. Directly you can go for that. That clearly shows there are still weaknesses in your approach. I'm not questioning your knowledge. Your approach is wrong. Still mindset needs to be set. So on that line, are there any prelims question in today's newspaper?
Yes, sir.
What are they?
One is based on Venkaiah Naidu's article.
Which one?
the mother tongue.
No, no, which question?
The question is in 2021 regarding the mother tongue language, the language day basically. So it is declared by it says it's declared by UNICEF, but it's UNESCO.
So it's a previous year question. So small detail like why this particular day is important.
Bangladesh.
Okay. I mean, for UPSC perspective also, normally it's very important. What is the theme this year?
Technology and
Using technology
mother tongue.
for multilingual
Multilingual
learning.
learning.
Challenges and opportunities is the theme for this particular year. Okay. Any other question? Tons and tons of schemes in this in the entire article. There are tons and tons of schemes. So we'll just try to identify some questions so that we will know whether to focus them or not. So every scheme mentioned in this article, is it worth it?
Yes.
Why?
They were asked and related to agriculture, sir.
Okay, so just because they are related to agriculture, they are important.
So, but
They were asked before also. Related to agriculture, UPSC asked so many schemes related to agriculture.
So is UPSC asking randomly? Or within agriculture, they have a set pattern? Yes. Who will tell me what is Pradhan Mantri Annadata Ay Sanrakshan Yojana? What is Pradhan Mantri Annadata Ay Sanrakshan Yojana?
so it is subsidy based scheme and
Subsidy for?
farm. 1 minute. So 50% of the cost they need to get subsidy.
That is MSP, right? 50% above and over the MSP. 1.5 times. That was announced in budget also.
It is related to subsidy. I guess.
Buy a red pen, red gel pen. Buy a red gel pen, 10 rupees, 5 rupees wala. That is much effective than highlighter. Highlighter is both money and time waste. Buy a red gel pen and automatically it will help you a lot. Okay, what is Pradhan Mantri Ay Sanrakshan Yojana? Annadata Ay Sanrakshan Abhiyan, Asha, PM Asha. What is the core theme of PM Asha? See, I am not asking whether what are the technical details within this particular scheme. Why that scheme? Matsya Sampada Yojana. So obviously it is related to fisheries. Then what else is there? Then tell me the basic core themes. Have you heard about them? For example, he talks about Paramparagat Krishi Yojana. So before reading this article, do you know that it is related to organic farming? Yes. Is it related to climate smart agriculture? Yes. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana.
Irrigation.
It is related to irrigation. What is the core theme?
Every field should.
Krishi Sinchai Yojana. Per drop, more crop.
Increasing the productivity of
That means you need to know why that particular scheme was introduced. Annadata Ay Sanrakshan Yojana, PM Asha. So what is the core theme of PM Asha? Chalo. Let's assume you don't know. What is market intervention scheme and price support scheme?
Agriculture marketing product.
What is price support scheme? Have you ever heard about something called as price support scheme?
MSP is
Yes,
price
sir.
support.
Where?
the cost of product, how much they charge,
Oh.
the total amount they
Confused. But you have
the
heard
total
about it.
cost of production, how much it is, so it should cross the.
First of all, is this article complicated? Not at all. Very simple, straightforward article. He says, more money is being pumped into livestock and fisheries. The rest is what are the advantages? How will the spillover effects will happen? then where the money is being reduced, and what will be the spillover effects. What should we do? We should balance it in the long run. So this can be used in the mains perspective, like will Indian agriculture go if I pump money into that? Will fisheries and agriculture and allied activities actually support the farmer? He brings in one simple fact which we already knew. In Hindustan Times article also we have seen, if a farmer is making 100 rupees of money, 40 rupees of money comes from wages. Okay, around 20 to 25% comes from agriculture and allied activities. So the rest of the income source is agriculture. So agriculture per se is not surviving or helping the farmer to survive. He's dependent on wages and he's also dependent on allied activities. So government is pumping money into allied activities that might have spillover effects that might create an ecosystem. Okay. So what about the wages part? Government is not pumping enough money into NREGA. But if it is not a COVID year, if there is no demand from the grassroots level, maybe the existing money would be more than enough. People might find jobs elsewhere. They don't have to depend on NREGA. But last year we have seen in COVID time there is a huge demand for NREGA. Automatically more money is pumped into NREGA. So NREGA is a demand-driven scheme. So depending on the conditions, people will change the money. Extra budgetary support can be given. Okay. Now what is left? Core agriculture. So does any of these things will help the farmer to double his income? Okay. So none of these schemes are new. Okay. PM Asha is nothing but market support scheme, price support scheme. That means, let's say, Bhugantar Yojana in Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh mostly. What they will do is they won't give you any MSP sort of thing. But if there is a gap between your market sale and the MSP, that money will be given to you. Instead of pumping all the 1700 rupees into the hand of the farmer, what government will do is fill that gap. Okay, price support scheme. Best example is your same. Whatever I said, Maharashtra is the best example for price support scheme. There are three kinds of price support schemes within PM Asha. So if you have to read agriculture topic again, I will encourage you to focus more on these two things: Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana and PM Asha. Okay, the rest are easy. In budget, government has announced support for agriculture infrastructure. Farmer producer organization, we all know. But without the three farmers bill, I don't see these things taking off on their own. Farmer producer organizations will not take it on a mass scale. It will be more like a corporatized. Automatically FPOs will be created even right now, but they will collaborate more with the startups or these big companies.
In the absence of laws.
In the absence of laws. But if it has to take on the mass scale level, we need farmers bill, right? So farmers bill is the long-term solution for India's problem. Next, they are reducing subsidies. Reducing subsidies in what? Fertilizers and according to the article, fourth column here, food and fertilizer subsidy, right? In India, many problems are created because of policy interventions. For example, groundwater is depleted in Haryana and Punjab region. Why? Free electricity. Farmers use more nitrogen. Why? Urea subsidy. Yes. So all government interventions are actually destroyed Indian agriculture, or it led to a skewed Indian kind of agriculture. That is why we are moving back to zero budget natural farming or organic farming to reduce fertilizers. So this is what Ashok Gulati continuously argues, right? To reduce the fertilizer subsidy. So right now, if you think about it, in Indian Express also there is an article which says India is having a highest food production, 316 million tons record food production is being happened, but it is not happening in the areas of Jowar, Bajra, Ragi and all these things. There is no dietary diversity. Yes, and even in food production, people are more focused on rice and wheat alone. Why rice and wheat alone?
MSP is announced.
That is what is called as paddy wheat system, right? UPSC have asked in the same lines. Paddy wheat system, why is it surviving? MSP, again, policy. At the same time, if you see this, there is a 4% increase in sugarcane production. There is a 4% increase in sugarcane production. Why do a drought prone area or a rainfed area like Vidarbha have a lot of sugarcane.
Policy intervention.
Exactly, right? So somebody is giving subsidy. So that is why there is a lobby and they have created a market. So Indian agriculture is not failing on its own. Indian agriculture is failing because of the skewed biases that we have introduced. Okay. So, and we are treating Indian agriculture as one entire ecosystem. Indian agriculture is not one. Indian agriculture is 10,000 varieties. Okay. So what should be our thought process? All these schemes are good. These will solve Indian agriculture problems at different levels. Okay, what we should do is, let's say Rayalaseema region in Andhra Pradesh. It is a rain-fed region. It has high amount of temperatures throughout the year. No clouds, mist whatsoever. So what should be done? Horticulture should be encouraged in that particular area. Yes or no? So what will work in Andhra Pradesh in that region will not work in Punjab. Okay. So instead of treating the entire country as one zone, agriculture is being a state subject. The intervention should also be at the local level. Global problems, local solutions. The same should also apply to Indian agriculture. Yes or no? Right. So the best way forward is to remove the subsidies. For example, if nitrogen is bad, nitrogen is overused. Urea is the most overused fertilizers of all. Why? Government gives heavy subsidies. So slowly we should move away from that particular thought process. So every region should identify what crops are good for it, what crop diversity is good for that region, and what are the dietary habits of the people. For example, there is a concept called as Ragi Sangati. You might have heard about it. Ragi bowl, Ragi rice bowl, bal actually. So that is very famous in Rayalaseema region, but it is not eaten throughout the country, or many people never heard even about it. Yes. So if we can introduce the dietary diversity, multi-grains and all these concepts, so slowly demand for these things will increase. Rice, wheat, paddy culture will come down. So like that, you have to think in the macro perspective. This article is mostly used for mains perspective because agriculture, we have seen it multiple times. Okay. Right. So antimicrobial resistance, all of you are very well aware of antimicrobial resistance. Yes. What is antimicrobial resistance?
And over a period of time, they stop working.
Okay. What is the solution? Anything from UPSC perspective? What is the solution?
We should use these medicines on a prescription basis. Self-medication should be avoided to a lot of extent.
There was a previous mains question, sir. Like over prescription free and easy availability of antibiotics has actually contributed to the decline in health of. There was a previous mains question.
So you are a graduate. When you read this article, you understood what Hindu is trying to tell you, right? Okay. Is there anything that is not mentioned in the Hindu's article? See, this is simple solution. Antimicrobial resistance policy should be there. On government side, government should do this. Okay. World Health Organization, is it doing anything for antibiotics? What? That is point number one. Second thing, what are the sources for this entire debacle? That means antimicrobial resistance is increasing. What are the sources for that? Third one, is there a concept called as One Health approach? What is One Health approach? These three are the areas where you have to focus on prelims perspective. Okay. See, the sources is a diluted question. Very slim chances. What are the sources for antimicrobial resistance? But what is One Health approach?
The environment health, the cattle and the animal health.
All the three as one rather than separate entities. So if I treat the environment, if I treat the cattle, if I treat the human life, all the three as one health, that means everybody is integrated. Automatically it will reduce antimicrobial resistance. Next, what is World Health Organization doing towards microbial resistance? It has classified antibiotics into layers. Okay, there are some antibiotics which should be used only in extremely rare scenarios. If you see antibiotics, now there is a red color line on the medicine. Okay, that shows this is only prescription based medicine that is not being properly implemented. Why? Self medication is a very common problem. If people have cold, they will take antibiotics. Yes or no? Cold is a virus. Why are you taking antibiotics? There is no logic whatsoever. And what is the problem now? A very horrifying data came into light. So when you go to a hospital or something, if someone is operated in ICU or someplace, it is supposed to be a very safe hygiene place. So still there are chances that you might get post operation infections. Those infections won't heal because the bacteria has developed resistance, and there is very hardly any new antibiotics that are being developed in the world. As far as I know, in the last 20 years, there is not a single new antibiotic. Okay, antibiotic starts with penicillin, right? You can go back to the science class, start where what is antibiotic and all those things. Then no new antibiotics are being developed, and the existing antibiotics, bugs are developing resistance to existing antibiotics. The famous joke, right? Mosquito landing on all out. Yes or no? So that is a problem. That should not be a case. Yes, if they develop resistance, what will happen? Superbugs will be a norm. I think there is a wonderful video by a YouTube channel. I will share that small video, 6 minutes or 8 minutes. It will tell you why antimicrobial resistance increased heavily. And everybody is a criminal in this entire endeavor, us, all of us. And thanks to COVID pandemic, we started overusing the hand wash, the sanitizers, extra hygienic cares, stopped drinking water from normal sources. So we became soft. At the same time, the bacteria is getting stronger. So with all the hand wash, the detergents and all these things, we don't know how strong we are making the other bacteria. Okay, superbug. One more theory. Yes. How will the world end? A. Superbugs. B. Asteroid. C. Nuclear weapons. D. All of the above. Climate change. Yes, D. Climate change. Umang? No?
E or F.
Optimist. I like optimist. Yes. We should have
Diverse
more worst
options.
case scenarios. Zombie attacks. No?
Diverse options.
Good. Or all the horrifying Bollywood movies. So this is an article about fostering Muslim authoritarianism. He gives a huge amount of background into the entire history of Islam and what did Prophet Muhammad say about egalitarianism and how it got deviated. Because as usual, we all see the oral histories will keep on changing. The winners will write the history, right? So whosoever is in power, they will change the history. So that is what happened to some part of the entire narration. But one important term he has used is
Islamization of
right, Islamization of the public life as a result of policy failure and people harboring anti-intellectual attitude. Okay, so if you see the Silk Road and all this history, these Arab traders, they used to do a lot of research in the scientific terms, scientific things. They were very actively participating in the research and development, translations. They translated Upanishads into Arabic. So there was a intellectual movement within the Islamic countries to absorb knowledge from as many places as possible. He argues that somewhere down the line, because of the religious restrictions, that thought process have gone. Now we are looking at a very rigid version of the narrations. Okay, so how does that help the society, and why is it important for present discussion? So is Islamization of public life a good thing or a bad thing?
bad thing.
Right?
Usually, in democratic countries, religion is supposed to be a private affair.
Again, you are taking the Western prism of democracy, right? When we talk about India, India is unique. India is always unique. The Western lens does not fit, will not work. So it takes a huge amount of intellectual capacity to frame theories only for India and adapt for India. Say simply put, in USA, the state and church are separate. Who framed that? What was the background? When secularism developed in USA, the concept is very simple. State and church are separate. So all the men, the white men, without giving voting rights to women, slaves, and poorer sections of the whites, only the rich white men have decided that state should not interfere in religion, religion should not interfere in state. Very simple, straightforward settlement. In India, can you come to the same consensus? Can you separate an Indian and his religion?
Actually, not.
You cannot literally separate an Indian and his religion. So the same is with Western case also, but it spills over into every walk of your life. Okay, automatically it becomes who you are. You are bringing your own thought process. You are bringing your own cultural, social, and all those value systems to the things, and you are applying them. And people were okay with it. People were okay with it. So now what is happening is probably these rigidities are pushing the extremes in all religions to consolidate and visibly showcase what they are. Right? For example, if someone argues that a Muslim girl has to wear a hijab, okay, I as a liberal can argue, yes, it is her right. Okay, when I do that, am I not enforcing the right wing section within that particular religion? See, there are two things again. I cannot outrightly call it as patriarchy or suppression. Maybe that person who is wearing hijab, she is willingly wearing it because of her faith. Okay, that can be the question. Or someone is not interested, but because of the external views, she was forced to wear it.
Maybe patriarchy was institutionalized.
That is exactly the point, right? The moment I call it as patriarchy, you are not helping anybody's cause. See, if I say because of patriarchy, I don't want you to wear hijab. Okay, then I'm actually fueling, the fears of the minorities, saying that, the tyranny of majoritarianism will happen. They will impose what to do, what not to do.
Why, sir? Like, I didn't get this.
You should not wear hijab. Who am I? I'm a non-Muslim saying that you should not wear hijab. But what do a core, believer says? It's my faith. So how do I draw a line between faith and?
Yes, sir. I get that. I get that.
So that is a core thing, right? So am I saying it for empowerment or faith, or what am I addressing there? Am I using it for propaganda agenda? If I say don't wear it, then also I'm enforcing the fear that it is a tyranny of majority. Yes. So how do you separate that? And there is a very interesting article by Suhas Palishkar in today's Indian Express. He also talks about the entire hijab controversy. He talks it in three terms. One is political, the next one is religious. Okay. And see, all these articles are very subjective. Everybody will have their own version of the story. So the other day I was talking to a student. He was saying, sir, dharma is a very good concept. All the people used to have dharma. Nobody had any objection, right? And I mean, you get the concept, right? Everybody's job is clear cut. Everybody's role is clear cut. Everybody should follow their dharma. Then there is no problem. Okay. So what he is trying to say is this homogenizing the society is happening. That means what is this particular article is saying, what is acceptable to Hindus is acceptable. What is not acceptable to the Hindus should be followed by others. For example, eating beef. Okay. If a Muslim is eating beef, okay, it is hurting my religious sentiment and I am majority. Okay. So who should change? That particular person should change. Okay. So that is one core theme. So what are we asking them? To change their dietary habits because it is not affront to us. And to be honest, many Muslims don't actually prefer or eat beef. It is subjective term. Earlier, probably they used to, now they may not. Okay. But that understanding has been developed more or less. Okay. That is one thought process. The next one is I'm creating a templated version of Hindu. Again, according to this article, like Hindu means this. Okay. So everybody should come as close as possible to this particular definition. And again, see, this is not at all new. This is, 1970 Govalkar articles. If you read RSS of 1970 Govalkar article, he says the same thing. Everybody in India should follow Hindutva way or Hinduism way. So as long as you follow it, no matter which religion you belong to, you are a Hindu. Again, the word is Hindu. You are a Muslim, but you follow Hindu way of life. I mean, the template version I told you, then you are a good Indian. If you don't follow the templated version, you are a bad Indian. Even if you are a Hindu, if you are not following the templated version, you are a bad Hindu. Right? Who decided the template? You get the concept, right? So that is a problem. That means we are squaring a circle. We are squaring a circle. A circle now has to change its shape to a square. Only then it will fit into the country, or else it won't fit. Again, this is purely according to this particular article, and this is not new. This has been tried throughout history, whether Nazis or anybody has believed in the same thing. The Aryan pure blood theory has been propounded by multiple times. Yes, and then he brings an interesting article. He also says casteism is a very powerful thing in India. So the caste purity also has to be maintained. Yes, because if someone from a lower caste marries someone from upper caste, there have been honor killings. Yes, and that is vehemently opposed. So all these things point out to what? There is a political agenda. So are we actually that smart that we are engineering all these things? Are these things happening because of people don't have any work? People don't have any work. But there is a very nice subtle sinister plot there. Yes. So it's I don't think anyone anyone alive can understand the genius of casteism, how it works on ground reality. The foremost expert in India, let's say on caste, some sociologist or someone with the age of 80-85, he must have understood like 60% of how caste actually works. Okay, still 40% is unknown to us. We don't even see the ramifications of the themes. All we are doing is throwing the stones on the pond. Okay, we are seeing the immediate ripples, but we are not seeing the long-term outcomes. So every door now you open might ripple 10 years down the line. So every discussion you bring in might open a new headaches in the new future. So I don't think anybody actually understands India. Everybody is going with the flow. The present flow is this. Okay. And how long will it continue is also something that we have to see. Right? That is also very important. Will because in the COVID first wave also we have seen a lot of communal hatred towards the Muslims. There was a huge amount of communalization because of the COVID, the Tablighi Jamaat and all those things. So then again slowly it died down. Nobody even discussed about it. Yes. So in the same vein, I hope sincerely that things will go on and everybody will get an opportunity to study. Right. And the genius suggestions like people should study only in madrasa if they want to wear burqa and all those things should not be encouraged, because that mingling is what brings everybody into the front. And as I've said, if someone is working as an IPS, you have to respect the IPS code, the dress code or whatever. You cannot bring in your religion no matter what. So as long as we maintain that common sense, this country should not have a problem. Okay, codes. We should work on codes. But for a deeply unethical society, I think it is a challenging task. Yes, do you agree that India is an unethical society? Definitely not. We are not unethical. Sure. Why? Tell me an example. Hmm.
Sir, a lot, sir. Like even if I'm walking and
Hmm.
if I randomly ask where should I go,
Hmm.
yeah, yesterday a person was asking me
Hmm.
where is I want to get this xeroxed,
Hmm.
but nearby there are no shops.
Hmm.
But I took him to that shop and actually that was not open. I know him. I called him and
You
I,
got it done.
I did this because I received this kind of help
Elsewhere.
elsewhere.
Hmm.
When not even in Telangana, AP, or not even in South. So
Okay. Right. So how many of you have promised something to your friend? Said yes, but never kept that word. And how loosely do you use the word promise and yes?
Not loosely, sir,
Promised and
but
cancelled is not loosely.
No, see, let's say Sumant asked me money. In India, generally saying, if I say, de dunga, in evening I will give him or yes or something. Okay, that does not guarantee anything, right? Yes, maybe chuddam dekhenge. That is also more or less like outrightly no, very few people will say. Yes, so that means that hypocrisy have deeply entered into our thought process that we actually don't recognize that we are being hypocrite. Yes or no? The core tenet of you is it's very much okay for you to lie to your comfort zone or promised according to the notes. Promise yaad de dunga. See, I mean, I'm not saying. I think in USA, if you say something will be done orally, like explicitly, if I say something, that word will be kept. That creates social trust. Until you receive that money, can you guaranteely tell me if Kalyan sir said yes, I will get that money? See, that small social fabric has been broken long ago. We accepted to live in dualism. We Dvandaniti. That means we are okay to say something, we are not okay to not do the same thing, and we don't even think that it is something to be discussed. That has created a social fabric with a lot of holes. Everything else is hypocrisy. If you want to believe Indians are deeply ethical, I'm more than happy. Goodness is one thing, being ethical is one thing. If you fall on the road, somebody will come and pick you up. That's not ethical. That's goodness. That's kindness. Kindness and ethical is something. Ethical is you are promising something, being guaranteeing something. If you say something, you mean it. You don't have to mean something to a stranger. Yes, fallen down. You have just picked him or her up. Okay, that is your goodness or kindness. Kindness is still prevailing. Okay, so society survives because of kindness and goodness. I accept that much. But ethical?
And I would go to a stranger and ask, like, "Ye kahan padta hai?" He would be more happy to help me.
That is kindness.
Right. But if the same case is there in some Western country, they would ask me to go to the Google Maps and be more reluctant to help me. So I think this is an ethical value.
Which one? Kindness.
Yes.
Kindness is an ethical value.
So willingness to help to anybody is also very good value.
Okay.
And so once you have said that when you were traveling in Delhi, you saw the guys who were being very rude. And then when a woman who was pregnant who entered the train,
All that is kindness, right? Kindness is also ethics. See, kindness, love, passion, compassion, all these are parts of ethics. But we are deeply unethical society.
yes, sir. Maybe on face, like we hesitate to say what the other person might feel. But
But you are being kind in the wrong place, right?
yes, sir. Like we are
So-
not letting our internal.
So your offense is what? When I use the word deeply unethical. If I say somewhat unethical, you're okay.
So outrightly unethical means you're considering all entire population as unethical.
No, sir. Maybe
Okay.
we are not.
It's some
Some Indians are unethical to some extent. Will that make you happy?
Maybe we are not ready to accept the truth.
Okay, so some Indians are to some extent unethical.
That's again permutation combination.
Permutation and combination.
But all
Hmm.
are not that unethical
Hmm.
as you were saying.
As I was saying.
But what you said is true, sir. Like there is some internal we,
Hmm.
there is some external we.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, internally we don't want to give that money, just like you said.
Hmm.
But externally we want to,
Showcase that I am a good person.
yeah.
Hmm. So we are hypocrites.
True, sir.
So when it comes to the values, such as looking at our
Hmm.
parents,
Hmm.
keeping the family bonds so
Hmm.
good,
Hmm.
I think we are more ethical in that.
Hmm. Tell me one thing. So again, see, either you do it again. Ethical standards. Ethics is not flexible. Ethics is not relative.
Objective.
Universal.
No. Not even that. For your culture, that is what we call as ethical relativism, right? In India, taking care of parents, okay, is a end in itself. You don't do it for anything. It's your dharma. It's your responsibility that you are supposed to do it. You do it with 100%, okay, or you don't do it. There should not be hypocrisy. Okay, your
Yes.
own comparison in Western country, they don't call their parents. Okay, I don't have that affection, I'm not calling them. 0 or 100. I love my father, I may not call him daily. So you have an external balance that if I don't call my father on a daily basis, I don't love him. So that is your prism, right? Second thing, I take care of my parents when they become very old, but I scold them in my mind every day. When do they die? Yes, there was a recent thing in the Andhra Pradesh newspapers, if you have seen it. A person was kicking his mother. Okay, so see, again, that is what I'm asking you. Ethics means what? You do it 100% or you don't do it. There is 0 and 100. There is no 50-60%. 50% ethical, 60% ethical. It's like oxymoron. Okay, so if I take care of my parents, am I doing it without any malice? Like 1% in my mind. That is the highest standard. See, again, I know this is utopian. At one point of the time, every human being will get that frustration and all those things. But are we accepting that? Or are we accepting it for the society? Many parents or many people will say, I still take care of my parents. And they don't even enter into their rooms. And Aya will be there, food will be thrown, everything will be taken. I am throwing money, I'm taking care of her. You are sitting in USA and sending 60,000 rupees. It does not mean you are taking care of your parents. But society, अच्छा बेटा है, he takes care of his parents. iPhone खरीद के दिया, बड़ा iPad खरीद के दिया, रोज वीडियो कॉल करते हैं. Okay, see, I am not judging them. All I'm saying is, are you 100% in that, or are you not? I think every human being is somewhere in between. So at least if you are honestly accepting that I'm not there, not for the society's sake, that is when we are not being hypocrites. Yes. See, you should have that courage to say no in his face. Why should you say, देखूंगा, बाद में देखेंगे, कल दे दूंगा, परसों दे दूंगा, फिर 2 दिन फोन नहीं उठाया, अरे यार भूल गया था. So why all this drama? Yes. So that kind of duality has made us, very complacent to everything. We are not even having a proper benchmark. We are not able to identify what is right, what is wrong immediately. We are Jugaad nation, right? We even in truth we are making it, comfort to ourselves. Though then, see, for 2 days if you don't lift the friend's call, what will happen? Again, in 2 months later, you will meet him. You will act as if nothing has happened. He will act as if nothing has happened. Right? Are you being a good friend? Why do you want to be friend with such a person when you don't want to help him? As simple as that. So it applies to every part of our life. Right? And most of the times we don't even introspect that particular thought process. So why am I bringing all these things is, if communalism also is the same thing. The summary is, communalism is also the same thing. If you believe in something, if you believe some people are good, okay, irrespective of religion, some people will always be good. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, everybody will be good. Some people will always be bad. Why not accept it as a fact? Why do we have to generalize all Muslims are good? Okay, there are bigoted Muslims, fact. There are bigoted Hindus, there are bigoted Christians. Not everyone who carries a saffron flag is a representative of Hinduism. Fact. So no, there is no subjectivity, there is no relativity. This guy is good for sometimes, this guy is not. He is bigoted, he is bigoted. Clear cut definition. If we compartmentalize things very simply, then we will know where to focus. Right? And as I keep saying, BJP, for God's sake, did not bring communalism into India. All it has to do is bring out what was already there. We are all bigoted to an extent. We all have that inherent prejudices, stereotypes, biases towards every religion. All BJP has to do is
Bring it out.
bring it out. Yes or no? That itself is a talent to bring something bad from everyone. Okay, we are doing that. So why do you blame BJP or someone else? Yes,
Circumstances reveal a man.
exactly. So that internal moral compasses have been long ago skewed. It's like, Jack Sparrow's compass. It will go in the direction where I want to. Today I want to be a good Hindu. My moral compass is tomorrow I'm a bigot. This side. Tomorrow I'm a lover of animals. Okay. If you eat chicken, okay, then next day you are PETA's brand ambassador. Yes, I love animals. So we have that flexibility, and we are okay with that flexibility. Yes, that is the problem. I hope you understood the essence of the thing, right? So when I say Indians are unethical, I didn't mean to hurt any religious sentiments, statutory disclamations, or anyone. I'm just saying we got so used to this kind of things. Even in our own homes, we see all these things. When the neighbor gets the tent for marriage or something, a bloody fool, rascal, he blocked the road. Okay. When your daughter's marriage is there, घर में function hai. Hypocrisy, right? And we don't even notice that. Just think about it. We all do this. So again, we should not deviate. We have, but I think that analysis is very, very important. That means if you have that moral compass onto the right things, you will become a better person every day. Yes, even today after saying all these things, if one of my friend calls and says me, money, then I will say, "Dekhenga yaar." I will check and tell you. Okay, I won't outrightly say no. Even I am a human being. I don't want to offend him or I don't want to hurt him. But that does not make me a good person. But at least I will have the consciousness that I am not being honest. Because if I outrightly say no, I don't have money, he might try elsewhere. I'm not being, a good friend in that sense also. If I have money, that is a difference. Clear? Okay. So this article is more about GST reforms into electricity, having standards for electricity distribution. But the simple fact is very interesting that we have 6 states which are dominating the country, whereas some states are not having any access. So what he classifies into high income states and low income states. So this actually is a very good article for regional inequalities, post-independence consolidation or regional inequalities. Some states are in India are doing fantastically well. Okay, and while the other states are doing not at all good. Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. So these states are doing fantastically well, while the others are having a problem. So his suggestion is to make electricity cheaper, accessible, and standardized. So for these lower income states or other states to get the benefit of the entire development, what should be done is unify the grids, bring everything under GST, electricity under GST, so that there will be a kind of standardization towards the power distribution that might help them progress. Okay. So that is a core summary. But I think this entire paragraph is worth remembering. So, what are the advantages of high income states? They take a lot of good stuff. Even in Atmanirbhar package, lot of money will flow into these states, whereas the rest of the states are not developing. And this will take me back to my old argument, right? India cannot grow unless states grow. And half of the big states like, Bihar, huge population, Jharkhand, UP, yes, MP, Odisha, Rajasthan, big states. See, Rajasthan is the largest state by geography, right? So when these kind of states with 43% of the population is not growing. When around 45% of the Indian population is not having the full potential to reach their goals. Okay. And unfortunately, these are the same states which are also having demographic dividend. If you see the high income states, these states have reaped the demographic dividend more or less already. Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, these are older states in comparison. Whereas these lower income states are the ones which are yet to reap demographic dividend. So in that sense also, there is a huge scope for growth. So his suggestions are very technical, that they should be under GST and all those things. But theme is we came to know what is the difference between high income states or low income states. There is inequality, regional inequality should be reduced. So what should be the long term thought process? There is one more article. What is the scheme name? What is the scheme name? What is its English name?
Social disability audit.
Social
That's audit,
disability.
actually.
Glad you realized it on your own. Accessible India campaign. Sugamaya Bharat Abhiyan. Sugamaya. That means easy accessible, easy access, right? So Sugamaya Bharat Abhiyan or Accessible India campaign was launched in 2015 to make all the public places and government places accessible to differently abled, what Prime Minister calls as Divyang, right? So that scheme is still ongoing. So as you can see, the government is working on airports, education, health, hospitals, social sector. Even India Sign Language has been announced. India Sign Language has been announced through the help of NCRT and all those things. So government is working proactively on differently abled. So Differently Abled Act 2016 is the update to the old one. So the basic details will help for mains, for prelims. If you can read it, it's good. But Accessible India campaign is also a very old scheme. You need not worry for the prelims perspective. But just knowing that it is a very important thing for prelims is mains is enough. Tomorrow we will discuss this particular thing. What is synthetic biology? I think this is very important for your prelims perspective. There are very good applications to synthetic biology, and it is also considered as one of the top 10 emerging technologies. So synthetic biology should be focused. If you haven't focused on this word, I encourage you to focus. There is an article 3 days ago in Indian Express also on the same topic, synthetic biology. UPSC loves such emerging technologies. So apart from the ethics discussion, I think everything should help you in prelims. Ethics discussion should help you in Atma Chintan. Yes? Yes or no? Okay, then. See you all tomorrow. Yes. I hope you are reading on a regular basis. Are you using stopwatches? Is it helpful? How many hours? 6.5 without classes.
Without paper. Without
With classes 8.
With classes 8.5. Okay, without classes
6.5 to 6.5 to 7.
What about productivity?
Very good, sir.
Hmm.
But I make that
Sir, mine is heavy.
takes to leave.
At home? Do PYQs at that time, right? See, you should have the discretion where my mind is being most productive. In the morning times, if you are very productive, spend more time on reading there. So in the break time, it doesn't need your 100% focus, right? So you can find certain things which will help you in the game, at the same time give you satisfaction. You don't need 100% focus to see a particular question. But at the same time, if you are seeing a question, if you don't know answer, it will kickstart that thought process, right? You might take less breaks. So try and experiment. So Shahid, you might need that warm up. Your brain needs that kick in the morning. So do something which you like the most, like revising. What people call is active recall. What you can do is, aaj jo bhi pada, tomorrow morning, in the first thing, in the first 1.5 hour of your studies, you revise whatever you have read yesterday. So in the 30-45 minutes, if you can revise everything that you heard yesterday, it might give you that warm up motivation. Okay? So that will also help you revise things very quickly, right? So you have to use this scientific method, active recall principle. Active recall will actually help. Okay. Yes. Anything else? No. Okay. See you all tomorrow.